The Marvel Cinematic Universe has become known for lots of things. While the franchise has killed off some characters permanently, more often than not, the deaths shown in MCU movies end up being fake-outs, meaning the characters who die end up returning. In this video, we'll look at the occasions on which the MCU tricked us with character deaths. One of the first times Marvel Studios made us think a character was dead in the MCU came in 2008's The Incredible Hulk. Tim Roth's Emil Blonsky had just been given a version of the super soldier serum and faced off against the big green guy outside Culver University. Getting a little cocky, he asked the Hulk,
"Is that all you got?"
prompting the Hulk to kick out at him. Now, in the uncensored version of the movie, we see Blonsky go flying and slam violently into a tree, and his bloodied body fall limp and lifeless to the ground. He undoubtedly looked dead. However, after a few days in the hospital, he'd healed up completely thanks to that wonderful serum. In 2011's Thor, Chris Hemsworth's God of Thunder was stripped of his power by Odin and banished to Earth, or Midgard as he calls it, as punishment for his arrogant behavior.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
In order to rid himself of the adoptive brother he saw as a rival to the Asgardian throne, Tom Hiddleston's Loki took the opportunity to send the destroyer armor to kill Thor off while he was vulnerable. Thor bravely confronted the armor, but Loki prompted it to lash out at Thor, which resulted in his death. Cue shock and gasps from audiences everywhere. However, his bravery resulted in him becoming worthy of Mjolnir once more, and as the hammer flew towards its longtime owner, it brought him back to life. After his evil actions were uncovered by Thor, and after his adoptive father Odin found out about them, Loki found himself dangling precariously beneath the Bifrost Bridge, with nothing but the vacuum of space below him. To avoid facing his punishment, the God of Mischief simply let himself fall, which made everyone watching think he must have committed suicide, as it didn't look like he had anywhere to go or any chance of survival in the vast cosmic nothingness. But he reappeared in the movie's post-credits scene, controlling Eric Selvig during his conversation about the Tesseract with Nick Fury. In 2011's Captain America: The First Avenger, Chris Evans' Steve Rogers assembled a team of elite soldiers to sabotage various Hydra operations.
Yeah.
One of their missions was to capture Toby Jones's Arnim Zola, which they completed while he was on board the advanced Schnellzug EB-912 train as it traveled through snowy mountainous terrain. However, after being attacked by a Hydra operative with a weapon powered by the Tesseract, Sebastian Stan's Bucky Barnes ended up falling from the train to his presumed death in the icy Danube River below. But in 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it was revealed that Barnes survived the fall, was captured by Hydra, given a cybernetic metal arm, and brainwashed into becoming their most dangerous assassin. Hugo Weaving's Red Skull was obsessed with the Tesseract and used it to improve Hydra's weapons in an attempt to conquer the world. In his final fight with Captain America, he got cocky, however, and attempted to handle the item otherwise known as the Space Stone. It didn't go well for him, as he appeared to be disintegrated by it. But in 2018's Avengers Infinity War, it was revealed that he'd merely been transported to Vormir, where he'd become the keeper of the Soul Stone. Rogers heroically crash-landed the Red Skull's aircraft, the Valkyrie, into the frozen shores of Greenland, in order to prevent it from endangering any people. As it impacted on the ice, his radio connection with Peggy Carter died, and Rogers was assumed to have died with it. However, no less than 7 decades later, the Valkyrie was found by a Russian oil team, who alerted authorities, prompting S.H.I.E.L.D. to arrive on the scene, at which point they defrosted the hero and discovered that, thanks largely to his enhanced physiology, he was still very much alive. Without a doubt, the most famous and the most contentious fake-out death in the MCU's history is that of Phil Coulson. Played by the very likable Clark Gregg, Coulson was a surprise hit in Phase 1 of the franchise, going from a relatively minor character to one of great importance. He was killed confronting Loki in 2012's The Avengers, and his death was used as a tool to unite the titular team, who up until that point had struggled to coexist. But he would later be resurrected, using a drug derived from Kree DNA to star as the lead in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series, which made his death seem extremely cheap, given how emotional and important it was when it happened on the big screen. Tony Stark's other half, Virginia Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, appeared to suffer an absolutely horrific death in 2013's Iron Man 3. After capturing Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark, Guy Pearce's Aldrich Killian revealed, much to the hero's horror, that he had subjected Potts to his Extremis formula, as a way of blackmailing Stark into helping to fix its flaws while trying to save her from its potentially fatal side effects. However, having fallen to her presumed death, she re-emerged to save Stark from the villain, with her Extremis powers having allowed her to survive the fall that would have otherwise killed her for sure. Loki's apparent death in the first Thor movie wasn't the only time we thought we'd never see him again, as he also appeared to perish in 2013's Thor: The Dark World. Having been imprisoned on Asgard for his exploits in the Avengers, Loki was recruited by Thor to help defeat Malekith and his allies. However, while fighting the extremely powerful curse of Svartalheim, Loki appeared to suffer a fatal stab wound to his torso and proceeded to die in Thor's arms. But it would later become apparent that it was actually a trick, one of the God of Mischief's trademark illusions. In 2014's Fantastic Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Samuel L. Jackson turned up at Steve Rogers' apartment to warn him that S.H.I.E.L.D. had been compromised by Hydra. In spite of the fact he tried to be extremely secretive about being there, he was still gunned down from outside by the brainwashed Bucky Barnes. He was later pronounced dead in surgery, and we literally saw his corpse on screen. Later in the movie, however, it was revealed that Maria Hill had taken his body from the hospital and that Fury had faked his own death, using tetrodotoxin B, a drug developed as a heart rate suppressant by Bruce Banner to relieve stress, to slow his own heart rate down to a near undetectable speed. At the end of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, when the two characters in the movie's title were facing off against each other, two other characters were having their own personal battle. Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson and Frank Grillo's Brock Rumlow squared off in the Triskelion, with Rumlow gaining the upper hand. But a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier smashed into the building, bringing it crashing down. Wilson managed to escape with Nick Fury's help, but Rumlow ended up being crushed, and it looked like he'd been killed for sure. However, he re-emerged horribly scarred in 2016's Captain America: Civil War, at which point, rather ironically, he died for real. The lovable walking tree Groot is a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy voiced by Vin Diesel.
I'm Groot.
In the first Guardians movie, he used his ability to quickly grow branch-like appendages as a way of protecting his fellow team members during a crash landing. He died in the process. But Rocket would use a sapling cut from Groot to grow another Groot, which makes Groot's resurrection a little different to the others on this list. You see, New Groot is technically the first Groot's son, but he's essentially exactly the same as the original.
I'm Groot.
Whoa!
Hey.
Or at least he was until he turned to dust as one of the most heartbreaking victims of the Decimation. In 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron, when the titular evil AI was created and immediately showed hostility, the first line of defense was another AI, Tony Stark's J.A.R.V.I.S. Ultron's first move was to eliminate his well-spoken rival, or so it seemed following his first physical assault on the Avengers. However, it was later revealed that J.A.R.V.I.S. had actually hidden away, having spread his memory around the internet to avoid detection, and secretly worked to prevent Ultron from accessing nuclear codes. Once he re-emerged, he was uploaded into the synthetic body that became known as Vision. In 2015's Ant-Man, we saw Paul Rudd's Scott Lang selected and recruited by Michael Douglas's Hank Pym to don his shrinking technology costume. But it was also revealed that in his younger days, Pym himself used to wear that costume, and that he and his lover Janet Van Dyne worked alongside each other as Ant-Man and the Wasp. But 3 decades earlier, Van Dyne had gone subatomic to disarm a missile, resulting in her being lost to the quantum realm. Now, knowing very little about the quantum realm, it was assumed she would have died in the mysterious dimension. But in 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp, it was revealed that she was still alive, and she was subsequently rescued from there and brought back into the world. This one's a little different to the other entries of this video, as it wasn't the movie itself when fans assumed Don Cheadle's James Rhodes had died. It was actually in one of the movie's trailers. We're referring to Captain America: Civil War, when Vision, who was aiming for Sam Wilson's jetpack, accidentally shot Rhodey out of the sky during the movie's iconic airport battle, which resulted in him becoming paralyzed from the waist down. In the trailer, all we really saw was Tony Stark cradling a lifeless Rhodes without knowing the circumstances, and it genuinely looked like he was mourning his dead friend. When Killmonger challenged T'Challa to ritual combat at the country's Sacred Warrior Falls, he actually managed to defeat the king, and subsequently hurled him over the waterfall, where he fell a very long way down to his presumed death. However, he was actually found and rescued by the J.A.R.V.I tribe in repayment for sparing their leader M'Baku's life earlier in the movie, but he was in a comatose state. He was then healed by the last specimen of Wakanda's native heart-shaped herb, and went on to defeat Killmonger in his next epic confrontation with the wannabe king. At the start of this year's Avengers Infinity War, Tom Hiddleston's Loki bravely attempted to kill Thanos when the Mad Titan already had 2 Infinity Stones in his possession. He then choked the life out of the God of Mischief, broke his neck, and dropped him lifelessly to the floor. But we're already aware how deceptive Loki can be. We've covered that already, so some trickery may be occurring here. We already know Loki will appear in Avengers Endgame and in his own TV series, so at the very least, we'll definitely see him again in scenes set in the past. However, another resurrection can't be ruled out. One of the most heartbreaking moments in Avengers Infinity War came when Thanos was forced to sacrifice the only person he loved, his favorite adoptive daughter Gamora, to obtain the Soul Stone. Zoe Saldana's character was thrown from a cliff to her death on the planet Vormir, but the actress herself has said she'll be returning for Avengers Endgame. Moreover, as far back as 2017, it was revealed that Saldana had been roped into some pretty intense conversations regarding Gamora's significant role in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. In other words, her death will undoubtedly be undone going forward in the MCU, as her appearances in another 2 movies in the franchise are as good as confirmed. Like his more mischievous adoptive brother, Thor has appeared to die on more than one occasion in the MCU, only to come back to life, and both times were thanks to his weapon. On this occasion, it was Stormbreaker. In Avengers Infinity War, Thor had the weapon forged on Nidavellir in its attempt to stop the Mad Titan from executing the Decimation, and he took the full force of a dwarf star to make sure it happened. It resulted in his limp and lifeless body crashing to the floor, which Peter Dinklage's Eitri had warned him would happen, until Stormbreaker crackled with power and made its way into Thor's hand, just like Mjolnir had done back in his 2011 Solo movie. Of course, the biggest occasion on which the MCU made us think characters were dead was at the end of Avengers Infinity War, when Thanos snapped his fingers and erased half of all life in the universe. Granted, the victims of that snap are currently dead, but let's be honest, we all know that's going to change very soon. Avengers Endgame will see a mass resurrection of snap victims, including the likes of Spider-Man, Black Panther, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, all of whom we know have new movies coming in the future. We may see a couple of permanent deaths in Endgame, but the overall mood of this climax is bound to be one of joy, as the heroes who turn to dust before our eyes, and indeed trillions of other living beings, are brought back to life. Do you wish Marvel Studios would have the guts to permanently kill off more characters? Can you think of any other instances of fake-out deaths in the MCU? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to ScreenRant for more great videos just like this one. We'll see you guys next time.